The night is quiet. Far across the sands of North Africa, a river glides through the dark, smooth, ancient, eternal. It is the Nile, the heartbeat of Egypt. Long before pyramids touched the sky, before kings wore crowns of gold, before even history had found its name, the Nile had already begun its patient rhythm. Every year, its waters rose and fell like breath. With each flood, the river left behind a gift, rich black silt, fine as silk, glimmering under the sun. From this dark soil came wheat, barley, flax, and life itself. Without the Nile, there could be no Egypt. With it, a civilization was born. Around 10,000 years ago, the Sahara was not yet the sea of sand it is today. It was green, dotted with lakes and meadows where herds of gazelle and wild cattle roamed. But as the climate changed, the rains withdrew, and people began drifting toward the one place that never dried, the Nile Valley. Here, small villages appeared along the riverbanks. They learned to plant seeds in the wet mud, to build with river reeds, and to shape clay into pots. Their lives moved with the seasons, sowing in autumn, harvesting in spring, waiting for the flood in summer. The Nile became their calendar, their teacher, and their god. To the Egyptians, the world was divided into two halves, Kemet, the black land, the fertile valley where crops thrived, and Dishret, the red land, the endless desert beyond. Life and death, green and gold, shadow and sun, always side by side. They began to see the world as a balance, a pattern of order and chaos, birth and decay, night and day. This idea would later shape their entire religion, their art, and even their politics. By 400 BCE, early farming communities had grown into small kingdoms, clusters of villages ruled by local chiefs. Along the Nile, two great regions emerged, Upper Egypt, the narrow valley in the south, and Lower Egypt, the wide delta in the north. For centuries they traded, rivaled, and sometimes fought. Yet both shared the same lifeblood, the Nile. Slowly, their languages merged, their gods took similar forms, and their dreams began to point toward unity. Around 3100 BCE, a man rose from the south, a warrior king from Upper Egypt, known to later generations as Narmer, or Menes, the first pharaoh. He marched north along the Nile, conquering towns, binding them under one crown, the white crown of the south and the red crown of the north. When he joined them, he wore both together, the symbol of a single, united land. The Egyptians believed this unification was not just political, it was divine. The pharaoh was the link between heaven and earth, a living god who kept the universe in harmony. His duty was to uphold Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, and order. When the Nile flooded on time, when the stars crossed the sky as expected, when justice prevailed, Ma'at was strong. And when drought, chaos, or war struck, they believed Ma'at was disturbed. Thus began the story of the pharaohs, divine kings who ruled for 3,000 years. The early centuries of Egyptian civilization, known as the Old Kingdom, circa 2700 to 2200 BCE, were an age of glory and experimentation. Kings built the first monumental stone tombs, seeking to preserve their souls forever. It began with one man, Imhotep, the architect of King Djoser. Imhotep was no ordinary builder, he was a genius of geometry and spirit. Instead of burying the king in a simple mastaba tomb, he envisioned a staircase of stone, rising toward the heavens, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. Layer upon layer of limestone rose into the sky, each block carved by hand, each surface aligned with the stars. It was the world's first pyramid, and the beginning of Egypt's great architectural tradition. When Djoser died, his spirit was believed to ascend those steps to join the gods. The people prayed that the pharaoh's eternal life would ensure the cycle of the Nile, the growth of their crops, and the order of the cosmos. A century later, the art of pyramid building reached its zenith at Giza. Here stood the mighty pharaohs of the 4th dynasty, Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, who built monuments so vast they would outlast empires. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, built around 2560 BCE, was the tallest structure on Earth for nearly 4,000 years. Over 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, were laid with astonishing precision. No slave army built these wonders, rather, tens of thousands of skilled laborers, farmers working in the off-season, fed and paid by the state. They lived in organized villages near the site, with bakeries, breweries, and physicians. Each pyramid was a symbol, not of tyranny, but of eternal balance. The pharaoh's body rested within, yet his spirit, his Ka, lived on among the stars. At the foot of the Giza plateau, a silent guardian watched over them, the Great Sphinx, carved from a single block of limestone. Half man, half lion, it represented the pharaoh's power and wisdom, standing eternal between earth and sky. Egypt's religion was as vast and layered as the desert itself. Every village had its patron god, every creature its spirit. Over time, the gods formed a great divine family, each tied to the rhythms of the world. Ra, the sun god, sailed across the sky in his golden boat by day and through the underworld by night. Osiris, the green-skinned lord of the afterlife, ruled the realm of the dead. Isis, his devoted wife, embodied love and magic, protecting mothers and children. Horus, their falcon-headed son, was the symbol of kingship itself. Each pharaoh was called the living Horus. To the Egyptians, life and death were not opposites, but stages of the same journey. Death was a doorway, and the proper rituals, the words, the offerings, the care of the body, ensured safe passage into the next world. When a person died, their soul began a voyage through the Duat, the underworld. They faced tests and guardians, until at last they stood before Osiris and the weighing of the heart. Their heart was placed on a golden scale, balanced against the feather of Ma'at. If the heart was light, pure and truthful, the soul was granted eternal life in the field of reeds, a paradise where the Nile never ceased to flow. But if the heart was heavy with sin, it was devoured by Ammit, the soul-eater, and vanished forever. Such beliefs inspired the art of mummification. Egyptians preserved the body so that the soul could recognize it after death. Organs were carefully removed and stored in canopic jars. The body was anointed, wrapped in linen, and sealed in tombs filled with offerings, food, tools, jewelry, even tiny carved servants called ashabdi, who would work for the deceased in the afterlife. The tomb was not a place of sorrow, it was a home for eternity. Time passed. Dynasties rose and fell. Around 2200 BCE, the Old Kingdom collapsed into chaos, drought struck, the Nile failed, and local governors claimed power. For over a century, Egypt was divided once again. But out of the turmoil, a new unity emerged. Around 2050 BCE, a ruler named Imhotep II restored order and re-established the throne. Thus began the Middle Kingdom, a golden age of literature, art, and compassion. Pharaohs now called themselves shepherds of the people. Their tombs were smaller but their hearts seemed larger. Poems and hymns from this time speak of humility, kindness, and the fragility of life. The Egyptians also expanded their borders, building canals, fortresses, and trade routes. Their ships sailed to the fabled land of Punt, bringing back incense, ivory, and exotic animals. It was an era of balance, where power and poetry walked hand in hand. But history, like the Nile, has its floods and its droughts. Around 1650 BCE, a new storm came, invaders from the east, called the Hyksos. They brought horses, chariots, and new weapons of bronze. For a century, they ruled the northern delta, while native Egyptian kings held the south. Yet even under occupation, Egyptian culture endured, absorbing and transforming the ways of their conquerors. Then came Ahmose I, a prince from Thebes, who rose to drive out the Hyksos. His victory reunited the land once more and began the most dazzling age of all, the New Kingdom, the Empire of Glory. From about 1550 to 1070 BCE, Egypt reached its greatest height. The pharaohs became emperors, commanding armies that stretched their rule from Nubia in the south to Syria in the north. Thutmose III, the Napoleon of Egypt, led 17 campaigns into Asia, returning with treasures, captives, and exotic goods. Under his reign, Egypt became not only a land of monuments but a world power. Yet amidst the warriors stood one of history's most remarkable rulers, a woman who called herself king. Queen Hatshepsut wore the false beard of kingship and took the throne as pharaoh. She ruled not by conquest but by creation. She sent great fleets to Punt, built magnificent temples, and restored prosperity through peace. At Deir el-Bahri, her temple rises from the cliffs like a vision, terraces, colonnades, and gardens that still whisper her name to the wind. The warm light of morning falls upon the sands once more. The Nile flows as it always has, winding through time, reflecting the rise and fall of kings. The new kingdom, Egypt's most radiant era, begins its golden pulse, an age of empire, art, and divine ambition. Amidst the power and splendor of the 18th dynasty, one pharaoh dared to change everything, Akhenaten. Born as Imhotep IV, he inherited a land of wealth and gods beyond number. Yet in his heart burned a strange and solitary vision, that there was but one god worth worshipping, Aten, the radiant sun disk. He changed his name to Akhenaten, he who serves Aten. He closed temples of other gods, especially that of Ammonius, and built a new capital in the desert, Akhetaten, the horizon of Aten, known today as Amarna. There, under the open sky, he built palaces without roofs, so the rays of the sun could fall directly upon his people. Art transformed. The stiff formality of tradition softened. Statues showed the royal family with elongated faces, tender gestures, and warm smiles. Akhenaten and his queen, Nefertiti, appeared side by side, equals beneath the sun. But not all were at peace. Priests, generals, and common folk whispered in secret. The gods of Egypt, Ra, Osiris, Isis, had shaped their world for 2 millennia. To deny them was to unravel Ma'at itself. When Akhenaten died, his vision faded swiftly. His city was abandoned to the wind. Temples to the old gods reopened. The name of Aten was erased from monuments. The next pharaoh, a young boy, restored balance, and became a legend. He was barely 9 years old when he took the throne, Tutankhaten, living image of Aten. Under the guidance of powerful advisors, the boy restored the old religion and changed his name to Tutankhamun, living image of Ammonius. His reign was short, perhaps only a decade, and in his life, he achieved little that changed Egypt's fate. Yet in death, he achieved immortality. For over 3,000 years, his tomb lay hidden beneath the sands of the Valley of the Kings, untouched by robbers, sealed in silence. Then, in 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter found it, a door painted with strange symbols, and beyond it, a glint of gold. Inside was a treasure unlike any ever seen, chariots, thrones, statues, and at the heart of it all, a golden coffin shaped like the boy's face, serene and timeless. The world rediscovered Egypt that day. Tutankhamun, forgotten in life, became the most famous pharaoh of them all. After Tutankhamun came centuries of power and pride. Among all pharaohs, one name shines brightest, Ramses II, called Ramses the Great. He ruled for 66 years, leading Egypt into an age of monumental scale. His temples, his statues, his cities, all proclaimed his divine strength. He fought great battles against the Hittites, most famously at Kadesh, where his chariot thundered into the fray. Though neither side won a clear victory, both signed what may be the world's first peace treaty. Ramses built the grand temple of Abu Simbel, carved into the cliffs of Nubia. There, four colossal statues of the pharaoh gaze eternally toward the rising sun. Twice a year, sunlight pierces the inner sanctum, illuminating his face. He reigned so long that he outlived many of his wives, children, and generals. By the time he died, Egypt had known no other ruler for 2 generations. To his people, he was not just a man, he was Egypt itself. When modern archaeologists discovered his mummy, his face still bore the proud lines of command. Even in death, he seemed to look upon eternity with calm authority. Under Ramses and his successors, Thebes became the spiritual heart of Egypt. Its great temple at Karnak was a forest of stone, colossal columns painted in bright colors, rising toward the heavens like papyrus stems. Each pharaoh added to it, carving their names into its walls, offering to the gods in exchange for immortality. The chants of priests echoed through the hypostyle halls, mingling with the scent of incense and lotus. Across the river stood the Valley of the Kings, where tombs cut deep into the rock held the pharaohs' mummified bodies, sealed with spells from the Book of the Dead, a guide to the afterlife. But time is the great equalizer. After Ramses, Egypt's strength began to wane. The cost of wars, the weight of temples, and the intrigues of priests drained the kingdom's wealth. Foreign powers grew stronger, Libyans from the west, Nubians from the south, and the mysterious sea peoples from across the Mediterranean. By 1100 BCE, Egypt's empire was gone. Its borders shrank back to the Nile. The new kingdom gave way to the Third Intermediate Period, a time of division and decay. Pharaohs still wore the crowns of old, but real power often lay with the high priests of Ammonius in Thebes. Others ruled from the Delta, or from foreign thrones. And yet, the heart of Egypt, its language, its faith, its art, endured. Even as the world around it changed, Egypt remained a land of spirit and memory. Around 700 BCE, Egypt found itself under new rulers, first the Nubians, who came from the kingdom of Kush, bringing with them deep respect for Egypt's traditions. Pharaoh Pi and his successors restored temples and order, seeing themselves as heirs to the ancient past. But the sands of destiny shifted again. The Assyrians swept in from Mesopotamia, fierce warriors who burned cities and broke temples. They were followed by the Persians, who ruled Egypt as a province of their vast empire. For centuries, Egypt was caught between great powers. Yet its people continued to pray to the same gods, plant by the same river, and whisper the same hymns to the rising sun. Then, in 332 BCE, a young king from Macedonia entered the land, Alexander the Great. To the Egyptians, he was no mere conqueror. They saw in him the spirit of a pharaoh. He traveled to the oracle of Siwa, where priests declared him the son of the god Ammonius. Along the Mediterranean coast, Alexander founded a new city, Alexandria, destined to become one of the greatest centers of learning the world would ever know. After his death, Egypt fell under the rule of his general Ptolemy, whose descendants would reign for nearly 3 centuries. Under the Ptolemaic dynasty, Egypt became a crossroads of cultures, Greek and Egyptian, old and new, sacred and scientific. The Ptolemies adopted the title of pharaoh but ruled in Greek fashion. They built temples in the ancient style, honoring gods like Isis and Horus, even as Greek scholars studied astronomy, medicine, and mathematics. At the heart of Alexandria stood the Great Library, a treasure of human knowledge, said to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls. There, philosophers and poets sought to understand not only the stars but the meaning of existence itself. And then came the final chapter, the story of a queen whose beauty and intellect would echo through eternity. Cleopatra VII, the last of the Ptolemies, was born in 69 BCE. She was not only a monarch but a linguist, scholar, and diplomat. She spoke several languages and studied the sacred traditions of Egypt. Unlike many of her Greek ancestors, she embraced her Egyptian identity, appearing as Isis incarnate in ceremonies, draped in gold and linen. Her reign was marked by political struggle. Rome's shadow loomed large over Egypt, and Cleopatra sought to preserve her kingdom's independence through alliances and love. She first joined with Julius Caesar, bearing him a son, Caesar Ion. After Caesar's assassination, she allied with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful generals. Together they ruled from Alexandria, blending passion and power. But Rome's new leader, Octavian, later Augustus, saw them as a threat. In 31 BCE, their fleets met at Actium, and Egypt's fate was sealed. Defeated, Antony and Cleopatra returned to Alexandria. Facing capture, Cleopatra chose death, legend says by the bite of an asp, the sacred cobra. With her passing, Egypt, once the greatest kingdom of the ancient world, became a province of Rome. The age of pharaohs had ended. Yet Egypt never truly died. The temples of Luxor, the statues of Abu Simbel, the hieroglyphs carved into stone, all stood against time. Even when Christianity spread through the empire, and Arabic replaced the old tongue, the essence of Egypt remained. The same sun rose over the same river. Farmers still waited for the flood, still prayed for balance, still honored the cycles of life. Centuries later, travelers from distant lands would stand before the pyramids, awed by their silent power. Napoleon's scholars would copy their hieroglyphs, explorers would sail the Nile with wonder in their eyes. When Jean-François Champollion deciphered hieroglyphics in 1822, the voices of Egypt spoke again after 2,000 years of silence. Pharaohs long dead told their stories once more. The story of Egypt is not merely one of kings and monuments, it is the story of humanity's longing for eternity. The Nile, with its steady flow, taught its people that time is circular, that death feeds life, and that even empires can be reborn. Tonight, as the mind drifts into rest, imagine the moon shining over that endless river. Hear the rustle of palm leaves, the call of distant birds, the whisper of water against stone. Somewhere, in the soft glow of the horizon, the pyramids stand, silent but alive with memory. The same stars that watched over the builders now watch over you. The voices of the priests, the songs of workers, the dreams of queens and kings, all dissolve into the stillness of the night. Egypt sleeps, but it never ends. It waits, timeless, serene, in the rhythm of the Nile. And as you drift into dreams, you too travel with the river, onward, forever, toward the dawn.